Hey Technical Comprehension, this video is for Wednesday, April 15th. We are toward the end of week 13 now. So I'm going to kind of summarize what we've been doing, and this video should be fairly short because we're kind of wrapping up chapter 10 and then looking ahead at a few things coming up. So as a reminder, last Monday, our last class on the 13th, you had your chapter 9 materials due. So you had your chapter 9 text sheet and your chapter 9 vocabulary quiz, both due on Monday the 13th. Now, if you did not submit those yet, you can still submit those. As I've been saying all along, even if you don't hit the due dates, please still turn your work in. That way you're still getting your points, you're still getting your credit, and you can still finish successfully. So please still turn those in. So on Monday's video, on the 13th, we started chapter 10. And just kind of a quick recap. And I said, if you if you want more practice, more hands-on or sheets with any of these concepts, just let me know, because I always have extra stuff. It's just in this format, I don't necessarily like uploading tons of documents. So real quick review, chapter 10 introduced us, or maybe for most of you kind of just reviewed, the skill of paraphrasing, where you shorten a quote or information into your own words, which helps you then lead to summarizing. When you have a piece of original text and you have to summarize it, you have to put it into your own words, hitting on the main idea and the major points, and it's a briefer version of the original. So it always depends on how long the original length is, what your purpose is, and what the assignment is calling for. And summarizing is basically hitting those important W questions, mostly who, what, where, when, why, and then how. So you're making sure that you get all that information in and restate it in your own words. We also talked about in chapter 10, metacognition, just the thinking of your own thinking, knowing what works for you. And so along with that, the chapter really did focus a lot on test taking and note taking and how to make the best use of your time when doing both of these things, which are both important skills for college students to have. So it went through all of these, how to prepare for the test, how to study more effectively, and then ultimately leading up to the day before as well as the day of the test and things that you can do and try for that. So then it kind of went into more issues with metacognition, and then as you got into the chapter itself, as we looked at some examples in the chapter, it also talked about note-taking, outlining, and then I also discussed a little bit of annotating. And again, normally if we were meeting face-to-face, I would have given you little excerpts of selections, and we would have practiced summarizing, annotating, and all of that, just to make sure you're comfortable with it. So also on Monday's video, I'm going to pull up our text sheet again. On Monday's video, we did already Part A was already uploaded for you. So Part A was just kind of one of those things where I just kind of walked you through it because it made more sense for me to do it that way. We did Parts B and C together. We went over those questions and you were kind of filling out some of that on your own. And we also did Part E together. Part E, I answered questions 1 through 4 for you, and you are using those to do your summary for number 5. So we touched on or reviewed almost all of the text sheet, so we're going to finish the text sheet right now with Part D. Part D, and it's going to have us go into our textbook on page 462 and 463. So I have 462 pulled up here. Now, the reason that we're looking at this is because part of chapter 10 also talks about the importance of using graphics, how graphics are an important part of the text process, because especially if you're a visual learner, sometimes the text may not make a ton of sense. However, if you are a visual person, then looking at the graphic, whether it's a picture, a graph, a bar chart, a diagram, whatever it might be, looking to see, okay, well, what is this saying? How does this help me? So it's always important when you have a graphic to read, the axes, the little, paragraphs or descriptions. So looking at all those, a big part of your reading graphics. So I'm going to read the questions, and I'm going to leave this screen up so that you can see while I read the question. So on your text sheet under Part D, we're answering questions 2 and 3, and it says on the second graph, what is the data being shown? So if we look at this second graph here, and we look, it's basically down here, right here. What is being shown? Well, you can kind of see like modern prediction of peak in global oil production, which is what that is showing. So question 2 wants to know, well, there's our answer right there. 2 is D. So I'm just going to pull that up and jot that down there. All right, and then question 3, in what year did the lower 48 states reach their peak oil production? What year did the lower 48 states reach their peak oil production? So if I go back to my graph, lower 48 is in this like burnt red kind of. And so I look down here and I look to see when that peak is, and it appears to be right around 1970 is when that peak happens. And on our options, that is option A. Option A. Okay, so that's Part D. Pretty straightforward and simple, right? So at this time now, we have finished all of the text sheet in terms of what I've gone over. So your job is to kind of start wrapping up that text sheet, get the parts completed that I did not talk to you about. So in your Blackboard course, Chapter 10 text sheet is due Monday, April 20th, and that's going to help me with week 13 attendance. There's the drop box right underneath it. So right there, Monday, April 20th, right underneath there. So make sure you submit that Chapter 10 text sheet, and that's your last text sheet. That is your last chapter text sheet, which is really exciting. While I still have the textbook pulled up, I just wanted to point out one feature, and this is optional, completely optional. It's just if you wanted to see how you were doing. Starting over on page 473 is the intro, but really 474. There are several combined skills tests. Now, I think there are 3 of them. There's actually 5 of them. So if you wanted to do any of these, they're going to have like a reading and then usually 10 questions that go along with that reading. That's going to cover all the concepts that we've talked about throughout the entire semester. So it's going to ask you vocabulary questions. It's going to ask you main idea questions. It's going to ask you author tone and fact and opinion questions. This is only if you want extra practice. So if you want extra practice and you want to look at 1 or 2 or all of them, and you want to do them just for extra practice and send me your answers, you certainly can, and I can give you some feedback as to how you did. It's not required. It's just one of those things that's there in case you want that extra practice, see how things are going. All right. Now, also, on Monday's video, the 13th, I went over all of the vocabulary words for Chapter 10. So you can see right underneath my completed study guide, here is both the quiz and the Dropbox. So I'll pull that quiz right up. This is your last chapter vocabulary quiz. So here you have your correct or incorrect. Remember, only one is written correctly the way it is stated. The rest you have to fix somehow. Part B is short answer, so make sure you just answer the question. And then Part C is multiple choice. So most of you have just been like highlighting, whatever your answer is. Some of you have been able to circle it, but whatever works best for you. And then you'll drop it in that Dropbox as well. That is also going to be due Monday, April 20th. So Monday, April 20th, you are turning in both your Chapter 10 quiz and your Chapter 10 text sheet, and that finishes Chapter 10, which is very exciting. Also coming up very soon on April 24th are your mastery skills. I know I touched on this in the last video, but I just want to remind you again, every single skill is open at this point, and every single skill that we have talked about after spring break has a video. I did not do videos for the first couple that we were face-to-face with, but the rest all have videos, so they hopefully will help you. You have until April 24th. Remember, you have to do all 9 skills, and 80% or higher average on all of those, and I'm hoping with all these videos, that'll help make that a little easier for you. All right, couple other things to talk about in the coming weeks. Chapter 6 through 10 vocabulary tests. If you scroll all the way down in your course content, you'll see a folder for Chapter 6 through 10. You open that folder, here is the study guide. If you recall, chapter 1 through 5, I gave you guys that study guide in class. We filled it out. I went ahead and just put that in there. And I have the study guide filled out already. So it's already typed in there. It's already ready for you to look at. It covers chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you'll see what words are on there from each chapter. I was able to get 6, 7, and 8 all on the front side, and then 9 and 10 are on the back side. So those are the words that are going to be covered in your 6 through 10 vocabulary test. That test will be open in week 14. I wanted to try to get your chapters 9 and 10 text sheets and quizzes done and out of the way, and on week 14 is normally when this would be given, so this will be open in week 14, but I wanted to let you know that here's where the study guide is, so you can access it right at the very bottom of the page under chapter 6 through 10. Eventually, that is also where your actual test will be. So 6 through 10 vocabulary test will also be in that same folder, and that'll be in week 14. Okay, the last thing this video is going to talk about today is your final project. I want to remind you your final project is coming up due on April 29th. So inside the final project folder, you have the original directions just as a source of comparison, but you're going to want to focus on the revised directions. And at this point, all of your work is more than likely just going to take place in one fluid Word document. You'll just open up a new Word document, and here you go, part 1, part 2, and I'm actually going to be sending you your strengths and weaknesses this week for you to be able to use on your final project. So be on the lookout for those. I'm just going to take a picture of your original list because that goes with part 1. Look at your original list and then create a new list based on your original strengths. So what are your strengths now? What are your weaknesses now? How have you changed? What should you need to do? So you're creating a new list and a summarizing statement, kind of like a reflection. Part 2, here is your vocabulary. So remember, 2 words from every chapter for a total of 20 words. Create an original sentence and then include a synonym, visual, or example of the term. You are doing both A and B for all 20 words. Part 3, this is the one that looks the most different. You are just choosing one scholarly article, and if you forgot how to do that, remember back in course content. Come on. I'm going to scroll down, and there's a quick review. Okay, here is your scholarly article, how you find it, and you are going to, oops, sorry, I click in the wrong place here. You are going to write one paragraph on why it's important for you to be aware of scholarly articles and how you can use them, how you can learn from them. So you're going to write your paragraph and send me your article. Whether it's just a link, whether it's a PDF, kind of send me your article so I know that you found that article. You're not necessarily doing like all those little steps that we talked about originally. You don't have to annotate it. You don't have to summarize it. You don't have to find a thesis. This is kind of general. Why is it important for you to be aware of and use scholarly articles in your field? What can you learn from them? How are they helpful? Why should you read them? And you can look through your article. Again, you're not necessarily like reading and dissecting your scholarly article. I just want to know at this point, do you know how to find them? So you're going to just, for part 3, write that paragraph and then either send me your article in a separate email, give me the link to your article, attach it as a PDF, whatever works, so I know you found that article. Part 4 is that learning strategy. What learning strategy did you use throughout the semester? Was it KWO, graphic organizer, your study guides, flashcards, and how did you use them and how are they helpful? And then a graded test or quiz. I put in here, I recommend something from the first 8 weeks of the semester so you have it like physically, hopefully in your hands and you can look and see. And these are just guiding questions. In one paragraph, tell me about like how did you feel? How did you prepare? Does this reflect your effort? All right, and then again, this used to be 50 points. It's down to 30, just kind of as a revision. Just make sure everything is kind of 4 to 6 sentences, as that's what a paragraph is, spelling and grammar, and so on. If you want to turn in a rough draft to me at any point, feel free to do so. If you just want me to take a look at something, just make sure you're looking through the directions and just kind of like put yourself in my eyes. Give yourself like a check. Yes, I've done this. Yes, I've done this. And if anything is unclear, just email me, text me, call me, whatever. Just let me know, and I can try to explain it to you you. I know sometimes, even though I'm talking to you through the computer, just hearing me or maybe having that one-on-one conversation can be a little bit more helpful. So eventually in your course content, you will have a Dropbox right inside that final project area. There will be a Dropbox for your final project also, although you can certainly feel free to email it to me as well. Okay, so as a review, Chapter 9 text sheet and vocab quiz were previously due already, but please submit them if you have not already. Chapter 10 now at this point are coming due on Monday, April 20th. So make sure you go in and you complete your quiz and your text sheet for Monday, April 20th. Your mastery skills are due Friday, April 24th, and your final project is due April 29th. Chapter 6 through 10 vocabulary test will be open next week. I will boil all this down into an email so it's in written form for you as well. And I also tried to stick pretty close to the syllabus also so you can kind of see it in that place. All right. Hopefully this was short and sweet. I felt like it was. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.